Sorry about the technical difficulties. This is the first public meeting to discuss the water quality improvement plan for Manhasset Bay. My name's Brianna Sadowski. I'm a project manager with Nelson Pope and Voorhees. And on our team, we have Carrie O'Farrell, our senior partner, as well as Lily Fowler, who's an ecologist and planner. I'll pass it over to Sarah to get started from the Manhasset Bay Protection Committee.
Okay. Hi, thank you for coming out. I'm Sarah DeHonorine, the director. Wow, thank you. I love it. So I'm Sarah DeHonorine, director of Manhasset Bay Protection Committee. Just as some background, in case you haven't heard of us before, though I do see familiar faces. So the Manhasset Bay Protection Committee is an intergovernmental committee. It was formed in the mid to late 1990s. And it's made up of 15 municipal members, the town of North Hempstead, Nassau County, and then 13 different villages. Some of them are represented here tonight. Our focus is on water quality and coastal issues. And actually the first project the committee did as a committee was a water quality improvement plan in 1999. And we have 15 members. Also, our website is manhassetbay.net, in case you want to check that out later. Our goals are to protect, restore, and enhance Manhasset Bay to ensure a healthy and diverse marine ecosystem while also balancing recreation and commercial uses. And that might be the end. Okay, so I'm going to pass it back to Nelson Pope and Voorhees. Are you going to cover
a couple more if you want?
Oh, okay. So we, in the 2018, we applied for a grant from the New York State Department of State to do another water quality improvement plan. Nelson Pope and Voorhees will talk about why that's a good idea to do a new one. And so we secured that grant. And then of course, COVID hit right after a month after we signed the contract with not Nelson Pope and Voorhees, with the Department of State. So then with COVID, everything shut down and it was a very slow process to get this started. We went and put out an RFP. We got some responses, including one from Nelson Pope and Voorhees, and they were our selected contractor. And it's been slow going, thanks to COVID, but we're up and running. This is our first public meeting and we will have more. And so we're hoping the momentum grows and that we get really good feedback from everyone here and spread the word too. And thank you for coming out again. All right, and then I'll back to Brianna.
So just to go through today's agenda, a little bit of what we're going to be covering in tonight's presentation. So we'll talk about the purpose of this update to the Water Quality Improvement Plan, or WQIP as I'll refer to it going forward. The status of that plan, where we are to date, the vision and goals, which is kind of a key component of what we're looking for your feedback on tonight, just to hone in on that, make sure that it makes sense present day. We'll give you an overview of the actual contents of the WQIP and the characterization report that we've drafted to date. And that will include kind of key water quality issues that we've identified. We'll talk about climate change and resiliency and how that applies to this area. And then we'll cover next steps, what we need to do going forward to complete the process, and then seek your input for projects and recommendations going forward. So the purpose of the Water Quality Improvement Plan, it's basically meant to act as a roadmap to reduce pollution and improve water quality in Manhasset Bay. So this current iteration of it is aiming to update the watershed conditions to present day and progress made since that 1999 WQIP. So we're looking to identify new projects and recommendations, as well as look back at the last projects that were recommended in 1999 and see if they're still feasible or if they need to be updated or improved upon in any way. We're looking to establish a 20-year vision.
It's a microphone.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Easier.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's see if this works. So hopefully. Check. Yeah. Okay. Keep it very close. I know I'm not great at talking into a microphone. So we're looking to establish a 20-year vision for improving water quality, habitat health, and recreational use within the bay. And then lastly, we're looking to incorporate climate change and sea level rise into long-term planning, looking at projects, making sure that we're considering that in the future. So the current status of the WQIP to date, as Sarah mentioned, we had the grant issued from Department of State. We've prepared a community outreach and participation plan. That's basically our roadmap for gathering public input along the way, making sure that the public is involved and can give feedback. We've refined our vision and watershed goals. Again, we're open to any feedback on those to make sure that they make sense for the current iteration of the plan. We've drafted our characterization report and gone through a series, 2 rounds of comments with Department of State up to this point. We conducted a regulatory assessment, basically looking at all of the municipalities involved within the watershed area to try to look at their local laws and any potential data gaps that we can improve upon that could impact water quality. Today, we're hosting the public meeting to gather input to help us finalize the draft characterization report, from which point we'll move that to a final state with Department of State. We'll talk about the next steps in the future slides. Sarah covered the vision statement, but we do have a series of goals that are available up on the website that we'll put up on the last slide. So we would like any input on these or feedback if anyone thinks that they should be updated, but we're looking to minimize non-point endpoint solution or pollution. So this could be from stormwater discharges, on-site sanitary systems, illicit discharges to stormwater, fertilizers, pet waste. We'll get into that a little bit further. We're looking to optimize local laws and regulations, make sure that this is working at the municipal level. You know, it's complicated by there being so many municipalities within the watershed area. We look to support local government operations. So this is kind of working together collaboratively to assist municipalities in complying with the MS4 permit, as well as enacting these local laws that are protective of water quality. We want to restore and enhance wetlands where feasible, including tidal and freshwater wetlands. Promote remediation of contaminated sites, maintain open space lands in the bay, reduce pollution from marinas, boatyards, and waterfront activities, minimize sedimentation of the bay, which may include dredging in a sustainable manner, continue and expand upon water quality monitoring. So just continuing to collect trend data, make sure that we're incorporating climate change in that data monitoring as well. Enhance coordination of efforts through the Manhasset Bay Protection Committee. Account for climate change, again, in our future planning, making sure that these projects will still make sense in 20 years from now. And then maintain the relevance of the WQIP going forward. So an overview of what the whole package of the WQIP looks like. So we completed a watershed overview that's basically looking at the geographic area, what's been done since 1999. We've prepared that community outreach plan. This meeting is a component of that, making sure that we're involving the public in all of our planning steps along the way. We've summarized other planning efforts that have happened throughout the Manhasset Bay watershed area. So we summarize the 1999 plan, look at the projects that have been completed, the status to date, consider other projects going forward from that point. And we've also summarized other planning efforts that have been conducted that could impact the water quality in Manhasset Bay to help us kind of get a full picture idea of what that looks like. We've summarized the watershed characteristics and ecological resources. So this is really where the meat of our characterization report is, our main analysis. So that's everything from the land use and zoning types within the bay, to topography, depth to groundwater, flora and fauna within the bay as well. We've used land use data to estimate runoff and stormwater pollutant loads. We'll talk about that a little bit further coming up, and assess climate vulnerability, and then conducted a regulatory review and assessment. So our next steps that are outstanding are watershed management recommendations. and then the implementation strategy, monitoring and tracking associated with that, as well as funding. So to talk a little bit about why water quality in the Bay matters, Manhasset Bay has historically been considered a rich water body. It was once New York City's shellfish garden. Human influence over time has degraded the water quality, so we're trying to improve that back to a more natural state. The good water quality of the bay is supportive of fish and birds and wildlife. It's critical for recreation, so boating, fishing, just shoreline enjoyment, and protects local property values and community identity. We all want to be able to enjoy it. So to give an overview of the watershed itself, so we've kind of used topography primarily to use GIS processing and identify the boundary, which is basically our drainage area that contributes stormwater and snowmelt to the bay. So basically, if you think about, if you can see our image over there with the red line, any rainwater that falls within that red line can contribute to Manhasset Bay. So inputs include stream flow, direct rainfall, stormwater runoff, wastewater treatment outfalls, and groundwater discharge. So if you look up, you could hopefully see it best on that easel up there. Is that the land use one, or, oh, that one, okay. So basically the red line is like our ridge line. So any rainwater that falls in there will be directed towards the bay. You'll see the black lines on there. Those are the different municipalities, just showing how many of them are contributing. And then the blue lines are kind of our sub watersheds. So we've further broken down the watershed into sub watersheds to help us kind of look at it at a more honed in planning approach. So to talk about water quality issues that have the potential to impact the bay, stormwater runoff is a big one that has the potential to transport pollutants such as bacteria, nitrogen, sediment, as well as trash running off from streets, lawns, or impervious surfaces. Fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides that are applied on lawns or golf courses that could be picked up in stormwater and discharged. Pet waste and waterfowl, boating and marina operations. You know, these are typically kind of industrial operations that are sitting right on the water body. So if not managed properly, could discharge oils and other materials that are used. And then illicit discharges, which is basically just illegal dumping or connecting into the storm sewer system. Construction activities. So if proper erosion and sediment control devices aren't used during construction, there could be exposed soil that could be picked up in stormwater and transported sediment into the bay. Outdated septic systems, which are a major nitrogen source. Effluent outfalls from sewage treatment plants. Road salts from winter application. And then floatable debris, which is basically that litter and trash. So we've taken a look at all the different land use types within Manhasset Bay to try to understand better what kind of areas might be contributing more heavily to the bay. So you can see it on that poster board up there, but you'll see the kind of light yellow colors are primarily our lower density, like residential, single family residential. The orange colors are more of the higher density residential. Reds are commercial, and your green areas are open space. So we've kind of taken a look at land use to try to understand what exactly is contributing to the water quality in Manhasset Bay. And a key point related to land use is that denser development typically means more impervious surfaces and more stormwater runoff. So there's more potential for that stormwater to pick up pollutants from these impervious surfaces and contribute them to the bay. Since 1999, we haven't seen significant changes in land use. However, there has been a slight trend moving from that lower density residential to higher density residential. So again, leading to some more impervious surfaces. The golf courses, that you see on that map, you know, they look like open space that could be a positive for stormwater pollutant runoff, but there is potential for higher fertilizer use that could contribute nutrients to runoff. And then roadways and transportation, again, those are more impervious surfaces that have the potential to contribute to stormwater runoff. And in terms of remaining vacant land, we really only saw about 4% in the bay. So there's not really that much new development potential. So we don't anticipate significant differing trends in the future in the plan, in our planning process. So we've taken that land use data and to kind of try to help us understand where the main sources of stormwater pollution are coming, we've modeled it. So we've used the land use data, which has helped us estimate impervious coverages within each of those land use types. And then we've normalized it for acreage. So you'll see areas that are contributing to a heavier pollutant load are those denser areas like Kensington and Sheets Creek. And areas that are contributing less to a stormwater pollutant load are the less denser developed areas like Kings Point Pond and Mitchell Creek. And then the last step that we discussed in the characterization report was considering climate change and resiliency. So this watershed, just like all other areas on Long Island and coastal areas, are vulnerable to climate change impacts, including sea level rise. NYSERDA is estimating that we can see up to about 2 feet by the 2050s. We'll also see increased frequency and intensity of storms, rising temperatures, and changing in precipitation patterns. So these are all things that we need to consider looking forward in our projects and recommendations to make sure that things that we're recommending now will make sense in the future in light of climate change. Areas around Manhasset Bay will experience more frequent and severe flooding. So the vulnerable areas are really those areas that are already developed, that are close to the shoreline, with high groundwater, low topography. Our high risk zones are primarily around the existing surface water bodies, as well as critical infrastructure that's situated within these high risk zones. We unfortunately don't have that. Oh, I realized that we didn't really have the pollutant load figure either, but okay, we could go back to that one if anybody wants to see it more closely. But yeah, so you'll see there's basically the lower risk areas are unshaded, moderate risk is shown in yellow, high risk is orange, and red risk is extreme. So primarily those low-lying areas within floodplains along the surface water bodies are where we're seeing the most potential for impact from coastal flooding. Okay, so next steps. Now that we've completed the characterization report and regulatory analysis, our key next step is to develop management recommendations. So these are identifying strategies and restoration projects to help us achieve our goals. And we will prioritize those recommendations based on water quality and habitat protection. So tonight we are open to any feedback or recommendations on projects to consider going forward for this next step. For each of these projects, we'll develop cost estimates, identify funding sources, and an implementation schedule. And we'll also outline roles, phases, and timeframes for each. There will be more opportunities for public input. I believe we're expecting another public meeting to occur around the fall to get some feedback on the actual selected projects. And then finally, we'll submit the final WQIP for department approval. So lastly, we'll get into the public feedback. We have created a survey that you can scan. I believe it's on your handout or on this slide up here. But so the topics we're looking for input on include water quality concerns, observations around Manhasset Bay, feedback on the characterization report that is also posted on the link, and then ideas and recommendations to improve water quality. So, and you're always welcome to comment to baycomments@gmail.com. You could visit the website where you can click on the links to comment there. And I believe we're gonna keep a public comment period open for a month, just to make sure that everybody has a chance to read the characterization report if you'd like and comment.